Welcome. It's Tuesday, August 5th, 9-ish p.m. in the DMV.
And 6-ish, 6 here in Los Angeles. I'm Jack Armstrong. Welcome to Talk Live.
Welcome. Another week gone by, and oh my gosh.
I know.
Never go on, right?
Absolutely. So, some big paydays that have been turned down. I was reading a little bit today about these billion-dollar job offers, obviously based on stock compensation from Meta. But it's really crazy how desperate they are seeming these days to poach researchers from OpenAI, Anthropic, Microsoft, Thinking Minds, and Thinking Machines Lab, amongst others. So yeah, quite interesting. I don't know if you've seen the headlines today in the Wall Street Journal. Again, another week, more stuff going on with this craziness. So, wow.
Yeah, so something kind of akin to like an NBA draft. I mean, we're talking $100 million offers, and that's just on the low end. There seems to be some sort of frenzy to sort of attract the top of the top talent in ways, essentially, we have 24-year-old AI researchers receiving 9+ figure offers, of stock and cash, and just, it's becoming something sort of a spectacle. AI researchers being recruited as if they're Steph Curry or LeBron James. This is kind of unprecedented in some ways, but also to think about, if that's what they're willing to pay them, how much are they actually worth, right?
Well, also notable to me, I thought why some of these offers were turned down. The reasons why they were turned down is also notable. Worth mentioning, obviously, some of them think that OpenAI is closer to artificial general intelligence and don't want to be a part of something that isn't that. But also, I feel like a big part of it is the fact that Meta is primarily driven by advertising dollars, and a lot of them don't want the fruits of their labor to be used or misused by a company like Meta that is potentially, I mean, we've seen the Black Mirror episodes. I mean, if you've seen them, and that's great. I think they do a great job kind of showcasing the dangers of not only subscription models just fatiguing the world, but really pricing people out of certain technologies. So I think artificial intelligence should really be a technology for everyone. However, I feel like, and not that Meta's not trying to do that, but just that, I don't know. I feel like advertising influences a lot. We've seen that with Google. I know we talk about that other search engine that has, Kagi, that has no ads. I feel like, we see what advertising can do to not only manipulate and influence things, but I don't know. I feel like that was also a case why a few of the offers were turned down when spoken to the Wall Street Journal. So pretty interesting news.
Well, and it's, in some ways it's kind of, I'm trying to think of something that's precedented in a sense, right? There have long been, lavish salaries and perks for tech workers, themselves. But, something that, perhaps we haven't seen before. This is kind of a new stratosphere of just like, frenzied is really the only way to describe it. It's just, you have, people are just throwing money at this stuff. And honestly, if a single person is, like making $250 million, it just leads the mind to wonder what is the value of what they're creating. If that's the cost of doing business, right? And that, not even the highest offer or whatnot. Something to think about. And another thing too is I thought it was kind of funny how, we're talking about maybe 20 to 100 people who really truly have the skill set. And something from a recruiting standpoint is these guys are out recruiting their friends, so it's like if one of these guys gets an offer, it's like, hey, like I want to work with my friends. So maybe, as you said, turning down certain offers, it could just be like, well, my friends don't work there. Right.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy in a sense. It's like,
That's true.
I want to make $250 million and work with my friends. Who doesn't? Right.
Well, I feel like also, when it comes to, artificial general intelligence, I find it striking that some don't want to leave OpenAI because they feel like the company they're at is already ahead. So they don't really want to kind of go back in time. I feel like it's kind of like if you're in high school, you're a senior already. Why go back to freshman or sophomore year? I know that's kind of a weird analogy, but like you're surrounded by, again, like the work they're doing, they feel like would be more impactful at these larger firms. So yeah, no, it's really interesting that, and also, I think we talked about this before with the other news, was just only so much money really matters. Like at that point, it's like, okay, what's another $100 million? I mean, sure, it can buy things, but I feel like when you already have everything you need, it's less meaningful. Going from a small salary to a large salary is already a lot, and more interesting. But I think it's interesting. There's the guy that founded Safe Super Intelligence, is also referred to as SSI. It's weird because these are people that are discouraged from mentioning where they work on their LinkedIn profiles. So it's an interesting strategy for them to kind of resist this, because I think we're going to see this happening in the next 5 to 10 years. I think this is a theme that's not going away. I feel like you're going to constantly see as, Meta tries to be the number one in AI and OpenAI continue, if they lose it, I feel like even Apple might, step in and try to get people. So I feel like what we're seeing now is not going anywhere. We are going to keep following companies poaching talent, and also, research firms, again, like Safe Super Intelligence, the other one, which was in the Wall Street Journal, called Thinking Machines Lab.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, so both founders essentially turned down, 6-year, $1.5 billion pay packages, essentially.
Yeah.
Which, is quite, I mean, it's impressive, but also kind of speaks to how, essentially like how mission and ideal driven, this sector of tech is, right? When you think about, you're not just building a piece of technology, you're building an idea. And I think to some extent, that's kind of why, it's, like, yeah, like I don't want to work for Mark for any amount of money. I mean, 1.5 billion, it's like I already make, 50 million. I don't need, I mean, do you really need 20 times enough? It's just sort of like, it becomes more of an ideals based decision at that point. But I think the Wall Street Journal article kind of points it out, where quite a few display an unwavering allegiance to their chosen leaders, who
Yeah.
are basically tech industry rock stars. I mean, it's about the culture. It's about there's more to it than just here's the product. It's not another widget that we're crapping out, right? This is
Yeah.
something that has a little bit more of an idealism aspect to it. At least that's what it feels like to me. I don't, because why would you turn down $1 billion, right? I mean, it's tough, you know.
Yeah.
You must really
Well,
believe in what you're doing.
yeah. I think money, this is a good example of money only going so far, I mean, it can achieve a lot, but when you have everything you need already, it's like, okay, it doesn't mean as much as it used to. And at the end of the day, if you already have, it's weird thinking from like a lower perspective, but because you don't have $100 million or 200 million or 300 million, but when you have hundreds of millions, what's another 100 million? I mean, it's less meaningful, I feel like, because again, like, yeah, I don't know. It's sure, yes, it's obviously larger, but it's your life is not going to significantly change like it did going from, $500,000 compensation to 200 million. I feel like there is a limit. There's a sky, there's a floor, there's a ceiling, to where someone can get at. But anyway, no, very fascinating, interesting there. Thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, this will be a theme. I don't think this is going away anytime soon. I also, DeepSeek really hit the news and was kind of back for a little bit. I know that um, OpenAI just came out with some new models. We're obviously looking at ChatGPT 5, and memories are obviously also becoming another large thing. So I feel like this is, yeah, like such an interesting, time where we're really close. By the way, I don't know if you've seen the Tesla robots and the Figure AI robots. These bots are really almost, complete to the point where they're encompassing. They can do laundry. They can do your dishes. They can put your groceries away. I mean, like, they're starting to do at-home tasks where that is a job that now no longer needs a maid, um, or a housekeeper to do these jobs. And so I think we're going to start seeing, as artificial general intelligence comes out, maybe even tutors, maybe even it's now able to tutor because it has a body, and it's got some advanced, logic. I don't know. It's weird. It's like, are you now gonna just have your robot teach your kids and do all your chores for you? So I feel like, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like, it's just becoming like, and also I think it's worth noting, as this scales, we also haven't seen this before. Right now these robots are in the, hundred thousands of dollars price range, which people can definitely afford. It's like a nice sports car. It's like, 150,000, 200,000. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of money, but if you've got millions and millions to blow, spending 100,000 on a fancy robot that can do your laundry and do your dishes and I mean, it might be worth it. It might, to do enough tasks around the home and just have a fancy toy, it might be worth it for some people. But I think as this technology starts to scale, and Tesla robots and other companies start manufacturing robots at scale, everyone might be able to have one of these for $25,000 in your home. Think about the impact of that when you can spend $25,000 and have a robot for 5 years lifespan that, if you're hiring somebody once a month to come, clean and do stuff. I mean, again, you're probably not going to break even at that level, but I feel like there comes a point where eventually some, people are going to break even, where they might be spending, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month on on these, for their home, where think about it, if you're paying a human, that money, you could make that money back in a year with one of these robots. So, and never have to pay again for the next many years. So I think we're to the point where as this technology scales, it is really going to start affecting the lower classes, because service workers are going to be less desired when these things can take over.
Well, and it's a good point. It's just sort of at what point does it become so accessible that, like, because there's going to be an inflection point of, again, most $150,000 is accessible in some sense of the term, right? Especially when you're thinking about it, where, these devices used to cost probably a lot more than that, right? But there will be an inflection point, kind of on the exponential decay, where this is going to be accessible for a larger and larger amount of people. And at that point, it's just sort of like, from the tasks that traditionally people have stated, oh, well, this is AI proof because AI cannot inhabit a physical form. Well, this is that's kind of the branch of AI where it's like, well, be a plumber, because it's like, oh, like, that's AI proof. Well, it's like, the more capable the physical form becomes, it's the physical and mental forms evolving separately, yet together at the same time, is kind of what there's going to be a point where it becomes so accessible that, there'll be no need for like a homemaker or a caretaker, or like certain positions and jobs which are vitally important are just going to be more or less separated.
Also, let alone like these things folding laundry and stuff. I mean, it's crazy, thinking of like Las Vegas or hotels, or these industries, right, where we notice they have a lot of employees in the hospitality field, right? And they're obviously, doing mundane, repetitive tasks that really could start to be replaced with these robots doing various tasks. As you can see here in the videos, it's watering plants, it's doing things in the kitchen. It's, look at those fingers. I mean, like, this is really, really concerning. As we start seeing, I mean, this is, I feel like, almost even better than the Tesla robot. So yeah, there's a bunch of companies really starting to do this, and it's like, wow, this is like a whole nother level of, it's cool, it is, but when this can scale to the point of logistics or working in factories. Now, obviously, yeah, some unsafe roles should be outsourced to AI, just in case they're prone to accidents or something in factories. But I feel like, again, as you see how general and generic they're trying to make these robots can appeal to even doing dishes in the back of a kitchen, or just now gardening for you. I mean, it's crazy. Imagine if you had a garden, your robot could just go around watering plants and doing weeding, and then spraying, pesticides, or, spraying fertilizer. I mean, this is really the world, we live in now. Or, and obviously we know that groceries can come to your door. Like, this is the other thing. You can order groceries at your door, and then your robot can go put it away. Like, that is pretty crazy. You don't even need to be there. You can deploy your robot to then go and like take, I mean, like, this is a cool world we live in, but like, what are these people going to do when they're replaced? Like, that's the concerning part about all of this. And it is pretty cool technology. But this is like, obviously there's a lot of questions that we need to ask. And you're right, as the physical form is becoming so popular.
Yeah, I mean, and again, something to keep an eye on too, because I feel like while it doesn't get as much attention as the software space, the physical space, while there's different barriers. It's like, how small can you make a servo before, it's no longer, it's like there are different, probably great walls of technological progress that you need to cross. But that's still, I mean, who knows? Like, maybe one could support the other, right? In a way. Um, so something to keep an eye on, honestly. We may have to do a robots revisited episode at some point. And just like, so where are, because by the time we circle back on a topic, there's such an incredible advance, because it's only 6 months, which again, in the human evolution and just general amount of time is very short. But it feels like we're in a new eon of, this kind of stuff. But to wrap up, I think we have to talk about iOS 26. You sent me this video.
Absolutely.
I thought was a little interesting.
So yeah, there was obviously a YouTuber that started leaking some updates, and Apple is really not happy. So we've seen Apple go after YouTubers before, but I feel like this might take it to another level here, because obviously Apple has traditionally been really good at keeping things under wrap until launch, but obviously that's hard to do forever, and inevitably something's going to leak. But yeah, they are, I mean, look, the positive, iOS 26, lots of great updates. I think even something that we haven't been talking about a lot, which I think is pretty cool, is the passport, the digital ID feature. So you'll be able to store your passport data in your phone. Now, again, it's not a replacement for the passport, but like we're getting to the point where I don't think, again, you shouldn't need your physical passport, right? Like, we have identity verification and we have enough technology now, I think, to be able to store the tokens in our phone that would, obviously be required. So again, like there are chips in the passports, and like obviously the passport is looking at, so I think we're kind of to the point where, as long as you can verify it's the right person and it's not like, Face ID. We've already seen biometric with Apple, and Touch ID and pass keys are becoming, obviously way more widely used than they've ever been. But I think that's something that's looking forward to with iOS 26. But yeah, what struck you like about the news, not only with the YouTuber, but just with the changes and updates coming soon?
Well, I'm glad you took it in that direction, because we have talked about digital identity in the past with Worldcoin and the orb, and whatnot. But I think this will honestly be something where it's going to be adopted by the mainstream, right? Because as much as you love or hate Apple, it's one of those things where, if they do it, people will follow. They have a critical mass, they have people that will participate. This is something that they can do, which will essentially, be adopted by people. So I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to keep watching it. I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's a ton of information other than, digital passports coming soon. And I guess it's not a replacement for your physical passport yet, so it's kind of one of those things where it'll probably be a while before they work out the kinks on it. But I guess it'll be interesting to see how it evolves.
Well, I mean, again, I think if we see Clear also, don't forget, I mean, Clear's been such a large player in this space too, with digital identity and verification. But like, I remember there was, again, most of the time you're not really asked about it, I don't think, but going through security once, it's like, oh, are you really asking me for my ID? I have, done the iris scan. It's like, they're like, oh yeah, but like occasionally we have to do random checks. I guess I was what, 1 in 100 or, whatever the number that, hey, I was picked, I was selected. But again, like, I feel like from a level of technology and biometric identity, why even need to look at a physical, that, like, as long as you can tell that the token that is the identity bearing like document can be verified with the database, and you are the human in front of them with like that it's tied to, it's matched with, like, they shouldn't, hopefully for not much longer, they need that physical document, because it just seems so outdated in 2025 to be like, going through here and like, pulling this up.
Well, and maybe we'll have to revisit WorldCoin, honestly, after you know, after iOS 26 comes out, and just sort of do a comparison.
Oh yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, a lot to keep an eye on. We'll have to keep up to date with iOS 26 and any future leaks. And honestly, other than the fact that there is a lawsuit against our favorite Apple leaker, John Prosser, there's not a ton of information yet, perhaps, that is juicy on that one. So maybe we'll have to kind of circle back after that kind of moves through court, because as we've mentioned before, with the studios and the AI content lawsuits, a lot of this, kind of makes the initial headline splash, especially in today's attention economy. And then as the court kind of rolls on, we'll have to provide updates as we have them.
Yeah. Well, and also speaking of an update with going back real quick to WorldCoin and World ID, they've got their flagship in New York and LA. They also are really promoting the games and mini apps to be built through their app. So keeping people engaged, whether it's mining, claiming tokens, sending tokens to friends, inviting friends. They're already up to almost 38 million users. Back when I did it, it was like 2 million users. So really, seeing a lot of growth. Obviously, they'll probably get to 100 million users soon, then 200, maybe a billion people. I mean, who knows? Like, it's when enough people adopt it and are actively engaged. I mean, this could be the first foray here into like blockchain. But yeah, I find it very interesting that because I know that the founders have also touted a lot about obviously oh my God, excuse me, automatic income, but universal basic income. So, and maybe this being a way to do that, obviously with, AI becoming prevalent and, bots on the internet. So this might honestly, be needed sooner than later. And, again, and then harboring in that new wage of, digital blockchains and digital tokens. Also, the US has rules, that have been changing lately with digital, investments and how, large institutions can invest in them. But lastly, it's also worth noting another project been following, have to shout out because I'm very fascinated by the work they've been doing. But the Gen Z focused gaming rewards and brand engagement platform, Devour, today actually launched their first campaign, their first brand quest with Snapple. So we're seeing Snapple engaging with Devour with this gaming engagement platform. And of course, they're using blockchain in various ways. And I think it's pretty cool to see what they're doing. And so this platform is growing, rapidly, and now they're getting brand sponsors and really trying to be the central hub for gaming data and for rewarding users for that gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, something to keep an eye on, honestly. We'll honestly have to go back through all our old episodes and do a follow up. Maybe, you know, greatest hits. You know, sort of where are they now? You know.
Yeah. Updates, yeah, year recaps and stuff. Yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday, same time, same place. Always here, Tech Talk Live. Also, don't forget, visit us on the web at techtalklive.xyz.
Yeah, talk to you all soon.